I'm Steve, I'm an addict.
And this is Chaos in Recovery,
A podcast aimed towards mental health and addiction in the chaotic world. Today, we have a very special guest. 18 months apart, we were born, and this is my sister, Jessica O'Neill.
Yay!
Hi, guys.
Yeah, I think both me and Tay have had our calendar marked for this week. It's an exciting week for us because, one, like our format, like we've said before, we want addicts at the beginning, and then we want somebody not in the addiction realm, but also closely tied to it. Family members, people that have lost loved ones, psychiatrists, whatever it may be. And for me, I know a little bit about maybe what my sister has gone through my addiction, but I don't understand it fully. You know, I don't, the emotions tied to it, the peace that was taken from her, the frustration, everything that goes along with dealing with an addict or an alcoholic and still trying to love them without you know, over loving them or doing the wrong thing to send them down the wrong road, or trying to help them but not trying to over help them. So many different things. But before we get into all that,
Yes.
I definitely want to hear a little bit about kind of where Jessica is in her life. And,
Wow.
you know, you do so many things. Always have. From a dancer to owner of businesses, owner of a dance studio, dance crew, a teacher, just so many different things. And where are you at today with all of those things?
Wow. Well, today, it's funny you say all that stuff because it makes you reflect on like, wow, yeah, I'm doing a lot.
Yeah.
I've done a lot, and that's a cool thing. But, you know, where I am today is a little tired, burnt out, and a little getting over sick. Yeah, so today I am an owner of Jessica Contracting. It is a painting and drywall company, a union company in Rhode Island, and I got into that because of my father and my brother. They were painters, obviously, way before me, my father, but my brother as well. I went through kind of a different life journey, pursuing the arts and dance. That was my first love. It was what I knew. I had done it since I was 3 years old. I had taken time off and kind of gone back, but I think the love that I found in it was just the creation, being able to move my body, and that was a therapy that I didn't know was a therapy at the time. It's just an outlet. It's a community and a release. So that, I think for that reason, that was my biggest love when I graduated high school. I knew it was the thing that kept me out of trouble. I knew it was the thing that kept me with a different sense of family and friendship and community and like skill set, you know. It was what I did have. It was the thing that I honed in on the most, like in childhood. So it felt big to me, you know. It was like the family and friends coming to the recitals and dance competitions and like those accolades.
Plus, she was like the best. You're not
you're biased. You're definitely biased.
I am 100%.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm bad, but come on, I know.
100% biased. But I've been to so many dance competitions when she was a child, and this girl had award after award after award after award after award.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And so, like, I am biased, but I also see talent when talent is presented.
For sure.
to me.
For sure.
I mean, I've seen your Instagram, so like, go check it out, guys.
Yeah. So
It's good.
Yeah. You know, and that, but I agree. And there's so many great things. And I definitely worked my ass off to be. I kind of was that person, like, with all the potential, but definitely had my own struggles of, like, you know, attaining, being good or good enough, or like, you know, I mean, it was training constantly, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say it came natural to me.
Sure.
I think many parts of it did, but I wouldn't say like dance as a skill set came natural to me. I still struggle with a lot of parts of it, like the learning aspect. But yeah, but then you go into the real world where everybody is, beyond amazing in professional dance world. But
what do you mean, like after childhood?
Yeah, I mean, that's
like
a dance studio, in Rhode Island, competitive dance studio is, you have a group of people. And then the real world, there's a million groups of people, and like you pick out the best of the best everywhere, and then you try and pursue it in the professional world. Like you have to, it takes a lot of resilience along with hard work. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, for sure.
And there's so many different styles of dance,
of course,
like which is. Every single style is like its own art.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I always thought like singing and dancing was like the coolest thing. Like, it's so. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. But you're right. It is a therapeutic thing. Yeah. And I love how you described it as an outlet and like a community and a release. Because people need that. Yeah. Like, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, but I think people are starting to realize like mental health is a thing. Yeah. And a lot of people need that release. For sure. So I love that you said that because that's like it's so true. I bet everybody has that one thing. For sure. And even if they don't know it, they definitely do. Yeah,
or should find it. Absolutely. Yeah. And that being said too, it's a physical thing. Like our mental health is directly correlated to our physical beings as well. Yeah. So it's like I never had to like work out or really work really hard on, my later years I found like what nutrition and health and like how I can change my body by taking care of it. Right. But like the physical outlet helped my mental so much as well. And that's like there's so much to be said about like getting in your body and getting out of your head to help heal your head.
At what age did you find yourself kind of getting into that part of like struggling with like the mental aspect of it and dance, so when it started to kind of like hit you emotionally, like you're like, oh shit, I'm good, like now I have to like really like get like practice more because like I did it with soccer. I played for growing up and it was very competitive, but like and when you had said just a little bit ago that like that was something that kept you out of trouble, like that's what soccer was to me, like as much as, but that's why I did it every single day. And that's, I'm sure like you danced every day, the practice, the whole right after school thing, it's the routine, especially competitive, but I think for a long time it was like a habitual routine. It was what I knew. I didn't really there's like the childhood innocence where I wasn't overthinking everything. That definitely was later in life, after hitting certain points, I guess. But I think growing up, it was just more of like, that's what I knew. I knew it was good for me. Like I saw it pretty logically and like, it just was what it was. I think that I found like, the real true like emotional and therapeutic aspects of it definitely through college. Like I went to college for the arts. Oh, cool. Because that's what I knew, and that opened up a whole new world of what dance was. Yeah. Where'd you go? And it was bigger Dean. Oh, nice. In Mass. Yeah, I know where that. Yep. And so through that, I was able to find way more than the competitive side of it. Yeah. And I grew a whole new love for it. And I had the opportunity to go out to New York City and pursue a professional dance career out there. And I won't get into that because that's a whole podcast in itself. But it was very hard. It was me being on my own, at 18 in New York City, and it was wild, and I had no money. Yeah. So I worked numerous jobs at once. Wow. And I was like up till 4 a.m. working, getting home by 6 a.m., waking up, supposed to be going training and going to auditions and be working my ass off to pursue this career. And I was out drinking and having fun and living a whole new lifestyle with a whole new community because I needed to pay for that goddamn $1,000 room that I couldn't stand up in. It's God. Like, yeah.
I remember that first apartment.
Yeah, it was wild.
Brooklyn, right?
Yeah. Wait, I literally had like 3 feet that I could stand. It was like a slanted roof. Yeah. It was so funny. But
how old were you?
I was right out of college. Okay, so,
Yeah, I'm not good with numbers and times and dates and
okay.
perception of all that stuff, but I was right out of college. It was 2011.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I did that for a while, and it was time of my life, like some of the best memories of my life. I was, experiencing New York City. I loved New York City. I still love New York City. I go back and I miss it, and but you get real sick of it too quick.
Are you glad you did it though?
I'm so glad I did it.
Good.
Yeah, I'm
like
so
experience.
Glad. Yeah. Everything shapes you, right? It was the best. Yeah.
And when did you start getting into like the idea of wanting to teach?
I think I kind of just always had after, like, you kind of hit a certain age in dance, and then, you like become teacher's assistant and you start teaching classes. And I'd say in college, in college, is when I really started teaching. I taught at another studio to make some money while I was in college, out in like New Hampshire, actually, right over the line.
Wow.
And then in New York City, did a bunch of stuff, and then as when I came home, it kind of just became consistent. Got in with a few studios, and I always loved teaching. I think when I had the time and the mental capacity to do so, I was at a very different stage in my life then, where like I could hold the space for like children and teaching and learning. I feel like there's so much to give to that. It started getting to the point that I was like rushing from other things to get there, and I felt like I was a fraud and faking it a lot, because I just didn't. I'm somebody that like I care a lot, and I think a lot, and I put a lot into things that I do.
Yeah.
So when it feels like I'm unprepared or not putting something in, like I can't hide that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my nerves will show so hard.
Yeah.
So I kind of got out of that. I stepped back from teaching a few years ago on a consistent basis. I still do like pop-up random classes when people ask.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I'm still heavily involved like with the community, and I'm very blessed that I have such good relationships with a lot of the dancers that I've met. So I'm always just finished a music video, a dance concept video last week, and be doing another one next week. And
so you kind of like pop in and out.
Yeah, I do like a lot. I just think it's about creativity and community, and I love all aspects of that. Like I love styling and set design, and
so cool.
Anywhere that I kind of have the opportunity to do that, I will do that. I'm in the big stage of my life learning when to say yes and when to say no, because it turns out 24 hours is just not enough to do all the things that I do say yes to. So then I get pretty run down, and I'm kind of, it's a vicious cycle sometimes that.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Can we talk about like, I want to hear from you the reason why you think you say yes to everything. And I know it's multi-layered, but
very multi-layered, very complex. I'll try to be as vulnerable as I can.
Yeah.
I think just shooting stuff out there, that fear of missing out, fear of missing an opportunity, disappointing people, disappointing myself, an opportunity to validate myself more. The sheer need and want to be in a space that I can create. So like a lot of that extra stuff that I take on, it definitely doesn't need to be added on what I have going on. Yeah. But like when it's a creative opportunity, like that's the stuff I do want to be doing. So the whole like work balance for me and trying to figure out what, that's a much bigger story of what I want to be doing with my life and where I find my happiness.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's a lot of reasons. I think there's a lot of reasons that are deeper than, when I reflect, it's like, whoa, yeah, there's a lot of shit probably there that we should be talking about and reflecting on a lot more. But I think those are some of the biggest reasons.
So that's a big reflection on yourself. So taking all of that, right, and now having you said you're in a state right now where you're learning to say yes and no. How do you feel saying no when you do now?
Proud.
Whoa.
Actually,
That's
it's funny.
cool.
I'm working with Justine, who was on
Yeah.
a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, episode 5.
Yeah, she is a great friend of mine for a very long time, and more recently, she's actually, I hired her to work with me.
Awesome.
I don't really have a title for her. She's kind of helping me in numerous ways.
Love that.
It kind of extends from helping me organize and get my shit together in my company, helping me build systems in my company, helping me do admin work, all the way to kind of like a more deeper life coach.
Cool.
All wrapped in one without it being kind of called anything.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, and I'm so grateful. She's helped me just carve out the time to be doing the work that I'm really not able to do in my company, and have those hard reflections and those moments of like, it's just kind of even having her there, you know, when I'm like texting her and I'm like, hey, oh my God, I have to cancel on you tomorrow. Like I have all this shit coming up and I just can't handle it.
Yeah.
Or whether I'm like, okay, running from here 5 minutes, or she's like, look at your calendar. Like, when do you have time for us to sit and do work together for your work? And I'm like, it's not there actually, you know? So to just be seeing that and having her there, I'm able to be like, I keep hitting these walls and I'm like, oh wow, what would Justine say about this right now?
Oh,
so
like
it's
catching
a
it,
great
recognizing
accountability. Yeah. And we've had many of those moments in the past couple weeks. She's like, what's on your schedule in July? She said a few weeks ago. And I looked at it, I'm like, actually not much, you know? And I'm just like, maybe you should kind of keep it like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's been so many things that have like come
up
in
for July.
And and I noticed myself when I open my calendar, I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm not doing anything in
Because you're
July.
like, why is it so empty?
Yeah, and I'm really trying to stick to that. And by not doing anything, that means, you know, expending my energy on projects and work and helping where it's not really benefiting me. You know, I not understanding I don't have to overextend my hand in any instance.
That's cool.
For that reason.
How I compare that to for us addicts and alcoholics is like a sponsor.
Literally, I was just thinking the same thing.
kind
I
of a
literally was like,
sponsor right
she
now.
has a sponsor.
Yeah.
It's basically somebody that calls you out on your shit,
Yeah.
tells you when you need to chill out. I mean, as long as you're using that sponsor in the correct way,
Yeah.
you know, and actually telling them what's going. It takes a lot of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a person, because you have to actually take their advice. You know, these people that we put in our lives to guide us only work if we're vulnerable enough to let them work. You know, and I know I can speak for me and my sister. We love a lot of things going on at one time.
Oh my God, Chaos is like my middle name.
Yes, right. Yeah, you
Literally,
too.
why I hopped on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you have 3 different jobs, and like, you know,
Three.
right. So there's always a massive amount of confusion that we don't know how to compartmentalize. And I know for me, I'll just speak for myself, I don't have the capabilities to organize my life correctly without the aid of another person who is unbiased on the outside saying, look, this is where you need to have a little more grace in your day and give yourself a little more time. You need to go to a meeting because you sound like an asshole right now. You need to, you know, maybe go to bed at 8 o'clock tonight because you're a little too wound up, or things like that, like little inclinations of insight that I won't give myself, or I will, but I'll avoid it.
Yeah.
Of course.
And if I have somebody else there guiding me and saying, nope, this is what you need,
Yeah.
Yeah.
once again, it comes with trust.
Yeah.
And-
Absolutely. It's trust, comfortability, and it's accountability. And it's like,
Yes.
I've always wanted, I, you know, can remember when I started opening up and analyzing who I was. And just the understanding of like, okay, you're not like this concept of like, I am who I am. And like, that's just the type of person I am. Like I
idea.
I really don't. I don't accept that, and I don't believe in that because I know that we have the power to transform ourselves in any capacity, right?
Yeah.
So your life is your choice.
Yeah.
How healthy you are is your choice. How good you feel, how sad you are, how happy you are.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of conditioning. And there's like, you know, it's not an overnight thing. There is no perfection. It's an ever growing and evolving part of you.
Sure.
You know, I mean, it's ever growing you.
I love
know?
that you just said conditioning because that's like such a key word. It's sometimes people don't know how to like explain that, and that's exactly what it is. Like you're literally like training yourself, conditioning yourself to like evolve.
Well, we get stuck in these habits.
Yeah.
And then we like you said, this is who I am. This habit is who I am. Like I don't know, you know, I don't know no other way.
Yeah.
So then reprogramming or reconditioning.
Sure.
It does take a lot of work. But like the second you start to see like little glimpse of progress, you're like, all that work, it's not even work anymore. It's just like it's appreciation.
It's a process.
It's
part of the
So
experiment.
Justine's kind of like a little genie, then, pretty much.
She's a little genie. Like, she is.
Like, I think everybody needs a little genie. Then.
Yes, exactly.
Because like she's kind of like a therapist too. So like I don't know. I mean, that's great. I think that's so healthy for you.
It's great.
And you should be proud of yourself for taking that step.
Yeah,
because that's like really hard to like sit back and like really be like, okay, hold on, let me like look at myself in the mirror, and like let's think about the things that we need to transition a little bit.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, our ego tells us we don't need help from anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
So to open that door up, especially with with people that they know they can do anything.
Yeah.
Like this idea of give me a project, I'll nail it. Type of thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what you give me, I'm gonna nail it.
Yeah.
One way or another. So having
I'll figure it out.
I don't care how long it takes me.
Right.
It's gonna happen.
And I think I think a part of like a frustration with like our relationship in the podcast. When you give me constructive criticism, sometimes I shut down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not
sure.
texting this bitch back.
This fucking bitch. This is Steve. I'm not even kidding you. I literally was just talking to my therapist about this. But this is what I said. I said you and I have such a healthy relationship in our friendship that like we can be like, okay, well. Then we take those constructive criticisms, right? And maybe we do shut down or like bite at each other a little bit, but then we're like, all right, are we cool? Like we just have to like kind of
Thanks for that.
We just have to like, and then we have to find a compromise, and that's what we always do.
Right, and I don't think we hold on to that animosity that is at once brought up when that certain criticism is put out there. You know what I mean? And for me, that has been such a lifelong journey of being okay with myself enough to accept outward help.
Yeah. Because not you, but like just in general, people that like get that constructive criticism or like advice or whatever, it's almost like you did something wrong type thing. Of course, and then you feel like that tail underneath your, like between your legs type thing. You know?
Absolutely.
It's like that shame. So then you kind of like have that like, I don't know, not reflection, but like that kind of like bounce back a little bit.
I think it definitely stems from, you know, childhood of you do something wrong, you better be embarrassed so that way next time you do it right.
Yeah.
And that embarrassment doesn't leave you throughout your life. Now I'm 37 and I still have that 7-year-old thought of, oh shit, I fucked up again. I'm worthless. I'm this. I'm that. And you know, I still haven't told that boy that it's okay for me, 37 years old, to accept that criticism.
Yeah, I think it's definitely helping me a lot with like Angelo too, because like I'm trying to like see like, because I don't want him to ever feel like he did something horrible. You know what I mean? Like it's different than teaching your kid. You know what I mean? But like it's true. I think it does stem from childhood. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, everybody has their own whatever.
Oh yeah. Our defense mechanisms are crazy.
Exactly.
I mean, I am no stranger to that for sure. That's one of my biggest faults, I think. It's like, I just want you just it's so innate, you know what I mean? You want to, you're like, oh, like I don't know. I definitely struggle with that in many aspects of my life. Like I love being accountable. I think that's one of the biggest reasons, that because I know that if I am accountable and I do the work to see it and try to transmute it into something better, then I am growing. And like, that's the positive, right? So I know that if I just listen to myself all the time and I just keep having that like stubborn ass, like, I'm right, you know, I can feel it in the moment for sure. But after, you know, reflection and wanting to be better, it's like, okay, that's the only option. If I see it. If I decide not to see it, then this is how it's always going to be.
Yeah, no, you're so right.
But it's hard. It's so hard. And I think it's having compassion when knowing and seeing that with other people, you know, like the delivery just gets a little better. You know, you're just like, hey, I love you. I care about you, but whatever, you're fucking up in the podcast, or you're whatever you guys are talking about, you know, or if it's a bigger and deeper thing in a relationship or a friendship or family, like you know, this behavior is not cool, you know, and I don't like that. It makes me feel like that. What can you do about that? How does that make you feel, you know?
Yeah.
Or it's like, I didn't really like when you did, you know, it's hard to like bring that stuff to other people's attention. Oh my God, the feeling is like,
my God, it's
like I am awful. I'm the worst. So that transmutes into stubborn, anger, protective, defense.
Amen. It's true. Like, people don't want to talk about shit. And that's exactly how it is.
It's easier to avoid.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and I definitely see it in like perfectionism that I hold near and dear to my heart. You know, I want everything to be better than it was before, or this, that, the other thing. And when somebody tells me, like, look, do it this way, not this way, because this way will be better, I'm like, how, fuck you, what do you know?
Yeah.
Sort of attitude. And that's just like, that's my first that's my first thought.
Yeah.
You know? And then I have to sit back and not react off of that.
Yeah.
Think about it, process it, and I'm able to see their side.
And that's the difference.
And that's the difference. You know, and definitely being in recovery, I mean, that's the basis of my recovery. I need to be open, honest, and also need people to be open and honest with me for me to grow. Because I can't fix myself, because I sit in this bubble that I have blinders on. And without the participation of these outside influences coming in, I am still in this bubble and just seeing only what I want to see and need to see to support my frustration, sadness, anger, whatever it is.
Of course.
You know, and so like, I love the sponsor aspect. I love the Justine aspect. I love the accountability that, you know, our relationship in the podcast holds, because these are all things that are so much influencing my day to day.
Yeah.
You know, with
you don't even see it.
With my family, or how I treat somebody on the road, or how I treat somebody at the grocery store.
Everything
or whatever
changes
it is.
everything.
Absolutely.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
We went off on I don't know where we were,
See, we're just
but
about to jump in,
I'm
but
lost.
I am going to.
I'm gonna
chime in here.
Crack
oh my
it,
God.
baby.
She's on round 2.
I thought Steve was gonna fill up my
The fountain
shot.
thing.
I found
Okay, so we can dive into that. All right, let's talk about
dive into
that.
what?
Oh, sorry. We're talking about childhood.
intervention.
Okay. So the main reason why we wanted to have Jess on, we wanted to ask you to come on because we wanted to essentially get the other side of, you know, a family member's side.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to skirt around it. Okay.
Yeah, get comfy, girl.
Okay.
We're diving in deep.
Let's
go. So the main reason why we wanted to have you on is because we wanted to get we wanted to ask, you know, the emotions. We wanted to talk and get the other side of either its family member or a sibling or whatever it was, of how anybody that has an addiction, how it affects them. And in this case, since Steve is your brother, how, first of all, before we dive into all those deeper questions, Give us an idea or background of how it was with you and Steve growing up.
Okay. Whoa, it's so crazy.
Like,
to,
what age do we start here?
You don't. Yeah, it's funny. It's so cool because what an opportunity to like sit and connect and reflect with my brother.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I was thinking even about talking about his addiction and all of the whole journey, our whole journey. And I feel so displaced. Life gets so busy that you feel so displaced from like these distant memories, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not really a distant memory. But it's, you know, whatever. It's like all of the instances and everything you go through. You have to sit and like, whoa, put yourself back there to really feel it. And it's funny. Like I feel a little displaced from his addiction and that part of my life, you know, when it was really deep. And it's like, you change so much over and you perceive it all so differently.
Sure.
And I think back like onto like moments that felt so big and so strong, like more trauma moments for me.
Sure.
And it's like I'm such a different person now from those feelings and emotions as well. So it's so interesting to talk about it and reflect back on these things. But let me get to it. Okay. So me and Steve, wow. I look at Steve like my best friend. Always been my best friend, my big brother.
Yeah.
My biggest idol for sure, one of them. I always thought he was just so cool. When I was younger, I think that I was like, I pretty much am now as well, but I'm such a like duality person. Like I am the biggest girly girl ever, and I'm also like the biggest tomboy ever. So it's like I'm like pretty like so extreme with that. Like people sometimes it really don't understand. And it's like I don't even know. It's just it's who I am, and I think a lot of that came from just like admiring my older brother and wanted to like, you know, we did everything together. We were always together. We had a big family. Our cousins were like life, you know, and we always had friends as well. Like we were a very sociable family.
Yeah. A lot of friends that intertwined.
A lot of friends.
Had
Yeah.
the same friends?
Yeah, pretty
A
much.
lot, yeah.
I mean,
So we're Irish twins, 18 months apart.
Wow.
So Steve was always a grade older than me.
Okay.
So, you know, as you
So
got
you hung
into
out with the
teenage
older
years.
kids.
Oh, yeah. It was always, we were always so close. And he
Yeah.
was always a protector of me. Like, he was always, he let everybody know that I was his little sister. And yeah, we always had that dynamic. And it was always chill. It was always cool. Like, it was never, I mean, oh my God, we pissed each other off for sure. And we had like probably moments or spans of time where we hung out more or less, but for the most part that's like my perception of it is we were always close. We always played together. When we were little, we'd be playing Barbies and Ninja Turtles and Pokemon and Power Rangers and
I love it.
go downstairs and watch WWE and with the I just always remember that we had some good times. Pokemon Snap, forget it.
Yep.
Don't even bring that up.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we just always did stuff, and we, you know, we were always cool. We were always close. I had never had anything to say besides I love my big brother, and that's my big brother. We got into junior high and high school. I'd say in junior high, like, we probably veered, like, we kind of weren't, I would say maybe not as close, but we were like always close at home and stuff too. But like I would say like we didn't hang out much because he got his like friend group. That's when he got into it. And I got my friend group, and that's when I got into it. It's like your whole life changes in junior high. And I think for both of us that was a lot of shit changed, you know.
Start to develop and stuff.
You were developing. There was boys, there was girls, there was
also
drugs, alcohol. There was a lot of shit coming in, and from a young age, there was some wild stuff going on, you know. And there was like some, I would say like we kind of grew out of our innocence quick, but we still were so innocent at the same time, you know. You at that age, you're still like a freaking kid. Like I look at people in high school, and I'm like, that's a child. Like we were children then.
I know.
You know, it's such a weird feeling.
It is so weird.
Yeah, but we definitely like we went through a lot of stuff too at home. I think that was we went through a lot of changes.
Yeah,
and with those changes, all around, you know, it just kind of shaped a different environment from like you have this whole span of childhood. I think that's pretty normal for a lot of people. But we were always so cool and close. But now it kind of started getting into like my girlfriends loved him. All his guy friends liked me. You know what I mean? So it was kind of that dynamic. And he'd be like, don't you fucking try and talk to my fucking sister.
Don't you
You
touch
know?
my sister.
And I like my friends would come in like with like a hickey on their neck and like nobody would tell me who it was from because it'd be from my fucking brother or something. I did so many instances. So shit like that. But we would like maybe get mad at each other for stupid shit, but like we would it would never last.
Yeah.
Like we never, nothing really ever like made us like that. We were always taught that family is everything.
Sure.
And I can still hear my mom saying like, that's your best friend for life. Don't forget it. You know, like that's your person. That is, no matter what, that's the person that's always going to have your back in the room.
Oh, I love that.
And that was very true my whole life.
Yeah.
Like I would never be in a space, I mean, maybe in different times of your life.
Sure.
But for the majority, even so, I could never be in a space and not feel safe with my brother there. And that's, yeah, I would say that kind of sums up our relationship. Moving forward, there was a lot of hard, trying times.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Steve's journey through drugs and alcohol did change a big... we had a big dynamic shift for a while.
Yeah. How long do you think that lasted?
Oh my God, I'm not good with times.
I'll comment on that. There were different sections.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a section when I had my son and I was living here and I was still using. I was go to AA sometimes and then go. So the back and forth was probably so frustrating for a lot of family members. But there was that time, and then I went to a rehab, got clean, moved out of this house, went to a sober house, ended up getting a house with Mariah, and we had our kids together, and that was like a special time
Yeah.
for me, and I think for my family also, because it was almost that glimmer of hope, like, oh man, he's fucking, he's got it now.
Yeah.
You know?
Everything is good. Yeah.
And then I unfortunately started sneaking around drugs here and there, and then it got to a daily habit again, and me and Mariah's relationship was on the rocks, and so all my other relationships started going under the rocks, and that's when I started really diving into like heavy stuff like meth and going in and out of jail, and I was totally disconnected from majority of my family.
Yeah. I would say one of the harder.
Yeah,
One of the worst. It was the worst
yeah.
span.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was living I was basically homeless, and there were like several times where, you know, I would beg my sister to take me to detox, or I don't really fully remember, but I kind of remember like crying wolf, like saying, you know, I'm going to commit suicide. And in looking back on it, I never wanted to kill myself, but I felt like I wanted to die. And usually the only person that would listen to me, I mean, besides Mariah, you know, but even she got sick of my bullshit, and would be my sister.
Yeah.
And so she would come to the mill that I was hiding out at, and just be like, all right, let's get your fucking shit together. Bring me some clothes. Bring me something to eat. Take my ass to a detox.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't even understand like the emotions tied to that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's like so much.
Yeah, there's
to
a lot
unpack
here.
right
This
there.
is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And reflecting before we get into that, just hearing him speak about that, how does that make you feel? Like, what are the emotions
It's
that come
funny,
up?
you know, again, being disassociated with a lot of the feelings. I think, not disassociated, but moved on from a lot of those feelings.
Yeah.
That you know, to talk about it, it's like, you know, I can't even process like, okay, what am I going to feel when I hear about it or talk about it? It's been so long that I've had to be in that space.
Yeah.
So it's emotional. It's
now,
emotional. It's sad.
Yeah.
It brings up a lot.
Sure. When you were, so did you have to get to a point where you separated yourself from Steve?
Yes.
And what made you, when was that point, and what was your deciding factor?
So again, it's a weird dynamic, and like I'm not, we're talking about Steve because this is your show, and it's been a hard journey, but like I've also been in like a lot of the same scenes that my brother has. And we started in high school partying together. You know what I mean? Like, I was scared to
some of the best times.
Try some of the best times. Yeah,
I'm sure.
Of course, you know, where it was innocent and it was fun. It wasn't ruining your life.
Yes.
Right.
You know, it was maybe not the smartest idea, or the, you know, being in situations definitely we should not have been in. But again, you know, for me, it was definitely more of a fun, social, experimental.
Yeah.
This is kind of what people did, you know, and I have struggled with a lot of those notions. Like, you know, like finding myself partying into my late 20s, like pretty heavily, where it's like, you know, every weekend it's like, what are we doing, where are we going, blah blah blah. Anytime you had free time, it's like, where are you meeting up with friends? It's always like, we're going out. You know what I mean? Instead of, you know, like, when did we kind of lose that wholesome fun? Like, I mean, you had your best friends you do shit like that with, you know, like, we're gonna go bowling or go to the movies or do this. Like, you have your family and your best friends that you do that with, but when you're social with people for so many years, that was like, where are we going? Who's having the party? Whose house we going over? Like, let's go in the woods and party, you know? So a lot of that stuff we did together and we experienced together. And I was always a big, let's call it scaredy cat when it came to a lot of that stuff. I was always just nervous, like with trying anything or doing anything. I just felt like, oh my God, something really bad would happen. I remember the first time I smoked weed, I was like talking to God in a chair for like 3 hours. My best friend, I tried walking home. I was like, my mom's got to take me to the hospital. And she was like, no, you're staying right here. And I sat in a chair in her room and I'll never forget it. Because I was just like, funny. It was a lot for me. Like, and anything I'm a sensitive, like, I have a sensitive physical body, I think. So you know, I don't really like, and mental, you know, I'm a super emotional person and I'm a super empathetic person and I overthink a lot. And not that those are all bad attributes, but it definitely doesn't make for like this resilient, like, let's do it all the time. You know what I mean? I had to like be comfortable with whatever, you know, partying to feel that way. So that's kind of, we had that dynamic first. So the first shift in like our relationship was when it did become a problem that Steve had, and understanding that it was a problem. Now, my father is a recovering alcoholic of many, many years, over 20 years. And so that's another dynamic, you know, like I grew up with my father drinking, and then he got sober. You know what I mean? So that was something that, and knowing how amazing of a guy he is, and knowing how shitty shit was. So I already had this kind of background knowledge of what it should look like, and this is a problem. So we know that until he gets help for this problem, it's not going to go away. You know what I mean? And he's going to struggle with it. And I think that was a hard break in our relationship, was understanding how I could, or when it was right to be around him if we were still around friends, and if we know it's a thing, it's an elephant in the room, and then if I'm with him and I'm drinking, or we're at an event or doing whatever, then I'm attributing to it, but he's drinking too, so then I'm like, okay, well, it's just my brother and here he is, but now
that's
it's not
hard.
right. Like, should I be the one helping him? Should I, it's, that's a whole, that was its own
It's like a freaking roller
beast.
coaster.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. Did you ever do you remember your dad drinking? Do you remember like?
Yeah, I remember instances.
So you remember,
for sure.
like how.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I remember, I don't remember.
That's what I remember him saying, so I didn't know if you remember.
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember one instance where our mother had to go pick him up from a bar, and he came in, and with the house we lived at in not Shafter Street, the other one off Tanner in Warwick. When he walked in, there was like this little bench where you could sit down, and he just came in, and I didn't know she was going to pick him up because he was drinking. I don't know how old was I was, and he just came in, plopped down, was like, "What's up?"
Oh, wow.
See it. I'm pretty sure I remember it now that you said that.
Yeah.
I remember a couple instances, I think, and it's funny, you just have your memories, your core memories, right? But I do remember a couple. I don't remember any that were funny.
Okay.
I remember a couple that maybe like now I can laugh about, but and weird shit too. And
Were you ever
my
scared?
dad's the coolest guy ever,
Oh, he's the
and
coolest.
he is like the best guy ever, and I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem. I don't want to out his stories or anything, but I do remember this one. I will say that he came home with like bags of Taco Bell, like bags. I mean, like it was like, God, he must have dropped $50 on
my
soft tacos, and he had 2 big bags, and we were like, Daddy came home. He's got Taco Bell for us. He's like, no, this is for you.
Oh my
and I was
God.
just like,
The drunken Taco
and I was like, after I look back, I'm like, drinking's bad.
Oh my God.
No, but
Yes.
no, I mean, I do remember a few instances, but I don't remember like. I guess I remember him with a beer in his hand or something,
Yeah.
or beers on the counter. I remember like going to sleep and waking up and seeing like beers on the counter a lot and being like, when did that happen? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I just oblivious. I thought the whole world went to bed when I did or
Yeah.
something. But
I think they did a good job at hiding it.
Of course.
When they went out to parties and stuff,
Yeah.
we would always be shipped off to like when they went to Jimmy's.
Of
and Maria's
course.
house,
It'd be a
they'd
vacation
have
for
a
us,
whole
too.
different house
Oh, wow.
for the kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
And they'd have
what?
a babysitter there.
Yeah.
So they
And
like
they'd
had
have their own
They were
party?
smart.
and then they
Yeah.
were across the street having their own party, and nobody was allowed to go over there. And so, like, and we didn't care because it was like 12 kids,
Oh my
like
God, that's
partying by
hilarious.
ourselves, you
Yeah.
know, at 7, 8, whatever it was.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that is so
And
funny.
so they knew what they were doing, you know. But
Of course.
sure.
our father also wasn't an everyday drinker. He was a binge drinker. When
Yeah.
he went out, he wouldn't stop. And so at least I didn't really see him in a different light at
Yeah.
all when he was before he got sober.
Yeah.
I just always looked at him as, my dad, and, I never saw that dark side of alcoholism through him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed you said that the last episode, and so I was like, I wonder if.
I remember he missed a dance
remember.
recital, and that was like pretty big for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he
because
showed
that
up at the
sticks
end.
with you.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Like in the parking lot.
Oh, really? Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those stick with you. It's
Yeah.
interesting how that
Little
happens.
things like that, but I always loved my dad too, and he
course.
was always so. He had his problems,
Yeah.
but they didn't. I didn't feel any less loved by him.
Yeah.
Ever.
So when he started his sobriety journey, that must have been a whole world of emotions for you, because just seeing like, I mean, you were young too, so did you kind of have anything of like, oh, daddy's gonna be different, or
No, I think it just I knew it was like it was for the better.
Yeah.
But we didn't again, I think they did a good job of hiding it, and like
We didn't understand
I didn't really understand
Yeah,
it, and
it's,
his
like, too young.
sobriety, I would say, like didn't really click for me until later in life.
Yeah.
And he's a strong man
Yeah.
that I think handles his own stuff, and it's not going to bring his like problems to his children. So like I don't think we really knew his own struggles
Sure.
at all.
Sure.
Or my mother's.
Or yeah, we
we
didn't really.
She was kind of towards the end a little more vocal about some things, but I think the majority. I mean, I didn't notice a difference in him. I also didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I thought something was different, and I didn't even think it was different. Like when we went to his 1 year anniversary, and we went with Grandma Poole.
Yeah.
You remember that?
No.
It was at St. Kevin's, and I didn't even listen. And so he spoke first, of course, his 1 year anniversary. I didn't even listen to him. I watched my grandmother the whole time. My grandmother's kind of like, she was this very strong woman who wouldn't show emotions, and it was like the first time I saw her get a little bit emotional.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Not outwardly, but I could sense it. Even at my young age of like 13, I could sense her getting emotional listening to her son speak on behalf. And I didn't take anything away from that meeting except for her.
Interesting.
And which made me correlate how special this was for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't have to listen to him. She said it all.
Yeah.
And I told him that I think it was 2 years ago at one of his anniversaries. And and that was for me, that was special to see my grandmother do that, because on my mother's side, they were like totally different from my father's parents, but that's a different story. But it was, I didn't really see the difference. And we were very young too.
Yeah.
Did you feel like Steve's addiction, like the progression from when he started using to the end, did you think that progression was quick, like, or was it like a slow burn?
No, it was a very long journey. Yeah, it's been a very long journey. How long have you been battling how long have you been trying? Have you been open and willing and wanting recovery in your life?
Is that a good way
to say it? That's a great way of putting it.
I think when Steven was, when Steven's 5.
Okay, that tracks for me. Yeah, I think it was like, okay. I want to say when Steven was like, when Steven was young.
Yeah.
That's like when like things I think would come up, like memories that I have of like, okay, you have a son now, like this is not good, because it amplifies it.
Oh,
it's like you have different responsibilities now, and this most important human being in the entire world that everybody was absolutely obsessed with, and like, oh my god, this little boy is the most amazing thing ever, so you can't be doing this shit. And Steven felt that way as well, right? So like he is the best father when he's present and can be.
There's still just so much shame there attached.
Yeah.
And I still didn't know a way to deal with my emotions.
Yeah.
I wanted to be sober.
Yeah.
I 100% can honestly say I wanted my life to get better.
Yeah.
I did not know how to do it, and I would not take other people's suggestions. My ego was still running my life.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I was still completely sad, and my only answer was drugs and alcohol. Going back to the reprogramming and reconditioning, I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want... I'll go to meetings.
Yeah.
But I might not want to listen.
Yeah.
And I was still in my late 20s. I'm like, what am I going to fucking do for the rest of my life if I can't? And plus, I was single at that time. How am I going to meet women?
Yeah,
How am I
there's
gonna
so
talk
much to
women?
it. Yeah,
There's so many different
the
layers.
social aspect of it. You're like, what am I supposed to do? Literally, all my friends. It's a environment too.
Yeah.
Like this, it's not just a habitual thing for you. It's everything you know. It's everything around you. Like you're not with a community that's sober.
Yeah.
You're not doing things sober with people, with friends. I mean, our again, like going back to that, like that's a big thing that sticks out in my mind because, I mean, I guess people grow out of that shit, right? But unless your life is looking like, okay, I met my person, I'm getting married, having children, I have this home, like, and I know it's so much bigger than that, but that's my perspective. It's like, you know what I mean? It's, you're sitting at home alone, like at whatever, 25, while all your other friends are already married and having kids now. Yep. And it's like, well, I didn't really see that. So what now? Now I do this. I work. I see my friends. I have, it's just always been there. Yeah. And in the places we've been, I guess. So I can't imagine how difficult that aspect was, especially.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But anyways, it's been a slow burn for sure. And I think the progressions, like Steve was saying, is kind of different chunks of time where it's like, it's been a very big roller coaster, because there's been times where we knew he wanted to do it. There's been times it's gotten bad. He's gone to rehab. And those, they fill time. So it's like, maybe there was 6 months here, maybe there was 8 months here. So each experience, I think, is a little different, but it's also a vicious cycle.
Sure.
And then your brain starts doing what is the cycle?
Yeah.
And what's going to help? What's going to work?
When's the shoe going to
How
drop?
should I be?
Did you ever have to have that, or did you ever keep that in your mind, like the when the shoes was going to drop?
Yeah. I mean, there became, I think it was new for a while.
Yeah.
And Steve has a problem, right? And then, okay, this problem's getting bad.
Yeah.
Now this problem's affecting his life. Now, because it's affecting his life, it's affecting everybody's in his life's life.
Sure.
So then it becomes a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Sure.
And now you have a child, and the child is number one.
Yeah.
And so there comes more emotions for him to deal with, and more
Responsibility, reliability.
Yeah, but more probably need to escape because that pressure and that
Well said.
expectation comes. So maybe it gets a little more difficult. And, the relationships, and if those are working and those are failing, and you think everything kind of has, everything has its responsibility in Steve's sobriety.
Sure.
Kind of thing, right? But really, we know that
I'm the only one responsible.
yeah, you're the only one responsible.
Right.
But from an outside perspective, you know all the things that happen in your life. This goes for everyone. It's like our trials and tribulations, like our journey. It's all affected by what we go through, and a lot of times we don't have the ability to look at it from the outside perspective as how do I want to choose to deal with this scenario, and how is it going to change me for the better, and how can I not be resentful and bitter and grow from this experience and sit in the sad shit right now and move on, right? We take the hard shit that comes along, and we use that as ammo, and it's more reason to feel like shit, right? When you're depressed, I mean, it's not easy to get out of being depressed, right? It's not easy to not feel anxious. It's not easy to not hate yourself. That's the hard work and the also grace to give yourself that we really struggle to do.
Yeah.
So it's like when these things snowball effect, as for a lot of us, we get in our shit. And so I think that I feel, just from my perspective, that must have been a hard journey trying to become sober. And all of these things hitting that maybe weren't but I know also you talk about how when you're happy too, that's a reason to use. So it's not the things, but I think from my perspective, just seeing all of these new things in your adulthood happen, and kind of being put back to a place, I kind of always would say, it's hard for him to get out, and he's 6 feet under, and it's because it's not just the getting sober. It's not just the paying back the debts. It's not just getting your kids back. It's not just building all of your relationships back. It's not just loving yourself. It's not just finding, all that shit is the heaviest of shit. So when you let it all go into its hole here, it's not easy to fucking get out. Because it's all those things that he has to get out for. I've always been able to have that perspective for him, and I'm the biggest, to a fault, probably empath. So it's and the connection I have with Steve, the best way I could describe going through the hardest parts of his him trying to be sober is it might sound like some woo-woo shit, but I feel like there's been times I feel so connected to his pain that was when it got very difficult for me, is because to see anybody in so much pain, I
I'm just not that person. I can't deal with that shit. I don't want to see people in pain.
Yeah.
It's like not in my blood at all.
Yeah.
And so to see the person that I care about, one of the people I care about the most on this planet, to be in so much pain and me not be able to have the answers to get him out of that pain, it was almost as if like I was in that pain with him for a lot, even when we had no relationship.
Yeah.
Wow.
From a distance, and there's been definite times where I felt like something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I knew it. And there's been definite, and I'm not saying it's like some, whatever, what it's called,
Yeah.
telepathic shit. But
no, but
I
you
feel like
sense
you
it.
are, you are that connected to people. You know what I mean?
100%.
Where you do feel, and I do know the pain.
Yeah.
In one way or another, I know the pain. I don't know the pain, exact pain, right?
Sure.
But I feel it.
Did you know that she felt that way? That she like could feel that? Like that is deep. Like that.
Well, so me and my sister have a connection where we're very open, honest, and vulnerable with each other, and also love to dive into certain topics. And so we've sat down at the table for hours just talking about certain things like that. And I mean, for me, hearing it and watching her get emotional about it, I'm going to say this again, and I've said it many times on this podcast. I need to hear things like that.
Yeah.
I need to experience those emotions tied to other people of my outreach, my tentacles of my addiction. Because she's told me, so, I understand how hard it is to see somebody with so much potential ruining their lives.
Yeah.
And for that to be one of the closest people that you love on this planet, I can't understand the magnitude of that, but I can feel it to a degree because I see it in other addicts and alcoholics, and I want them to get it, and I want them to understand what I'm trying to help them with, but those people just get it when they get it. When they're open and honest and vulnerable enough to be willing to take that. For me, there's been so many clicks in the last 2 years that, and I needed so many of them to understand how recovery is going to work in my life. Because there's so many things I've been told time and time and time again that I've taken at face value, and it's just like, okay, these are the words.
Yeah.
Now, what's the understanding? And even deeper, what's the action?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because getting to the action stage and seeing the actual fruits of your labor from those actions was the only time I started piling up real confident recovery.
Yes.
Yeah. And that opens you for the things to click.
Absolutely.
Is I think it's like it becomes not I can relate in many ways. Like there's an understanding, there's a seeing, there's a learning, there's a wanting, there's experiencing, there's trying to implement action, right? And like when something clicks, it never goes away.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I've experienced that. I mean, I've been on my own self-healing journey for over 5 years now myself.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. Like when something clicks, it's like, oh my God, I've thought about this a million times and I never felt it in that way. And it's such a out of body like thing to try and even describe, but it's like when you get it, you get it.
Oh,
and it's like the silliest, corniest quotes, you realize,
Click one day.
oh shit, that shit's so real. Like I think about it when like, I just, I don't know. When it clicks, but you have to be open. And I think that's the thing. And when you are open, you're opening the energy for the tumbleweed effect of all of the healing to start happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, you're able to see it like down the road where you look back and you're like, a year ago, I have so many of my own struggles still to this day when it comes to wanting to do this stuff with Justine and work. And I'm always trying to do something to grow, but I'll face my struggles and I'll be like, she'll be like, what would you do a year ago, 2 years ago? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm fucking killing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's these things are, the work does work when you open up to let the work
gotta work.
Yeah,
You gotta work.
For me, like right now, I still go to at least one meeting a day, if not two. If not, sometimes I hit one in the morning and one in the afternoon, evening time. I have to do that. There's things that I have to do right now for my recovery that keep me humble and at peace with my recovery journey.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that I needed to do all this work. I have this personality of, if it's not working, fuck it all.
Yeah.
And for me, if I do a couple meetings a week, that mentality is so big at the forefront.
Yeah.
So that way the next difficult thing that pops up in my life that doesn't make me feel good, my first response is, all right, let's go get high. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Because obviously recovery is not working. Obviously the relationships aren't working. Obviously I'm not seeing my kid. And I'm right back to using. And so the only way for me to be okay with my recovery journey right now is doing all the fucking hard work. And I've said it so many times on this podcast.
Can't stop.
And I'm not gloating or trying to idolize myself when I say I do so much.
Yeah.
I do so much because I am so obsessive about using drugs and alcohol as my medicine for life.
Yeah.
And if I don't do all of this fucking work, I will be right back to relapsing. How many times I've
It's
relapsed?
constant. Yeah. You don't go to a therapist for a year and call yourself healed.
No.
It's lifelong.
Yeah.
And we all have the responsibility to, I believe we all have that responsibility to take care of ourselves and open up yourselves in any capacity. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Just reflection. Like, you got to do something.
Yeah.
Because if you just think it's all fine and dandy, we all know it's not, you know? So, and the work is what needs to be done. It's like, I mean, I notice myself when I'm not doing my own self-healing work or self-growth work.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks' time, I'm like, I see the difference.
Oh, sure.
I see it. I feel it. You know, you have to carve out space for yourself. And it's the quote, what is it? Like, you spend the first 30 years of your life learning, and then you spend the next 30 years unlearning or relearning. Right. So it's like, I think about that all the time because it's like, it's, you have to do the work. You have to put in the work. And if you do the work does the work for you.
Sure.
You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to do the work right. You don't have to, you just have to be in the space. You know, it has to be that hour for yourself. It has to be that sit down and think. It has to be that take a minute to breathe. It has to be whatever it is.
And it's not lifelong for me. I'm not going to a meeting every day for the rest of my life. You know, but for right now.
Yeah. And maybe that is what you need
and maybe
all
it
the
is.
time.
Yeah,
and that's
know.
okay. It doesn't matter.
And I think the cool thing about that too is like, just like you said, it's not a lifelong thing, but like there's literally no rush. Like you can keep doing what you're doing because one, it's working for your work schedule, it's working for your personal life, it's working for, all your meeting, your recovery stuff. So like, don't change it till you need to. You know what I mean? And like there's no rush to do it. And like what works for you works for you. What works for me works for me. What works for you works for you. Like, absolutely. And I love that.
And I just don't. I'm just afraid of using again and ruining everything. So I know I need to do all of this. And I don't have. I've built my life up so many times and destroyed it so many times that it's just gotten so. Like my physical, just like your physical, you ruin your physical over time by doing drugs and alcohol. My mental is like right up there. My spiritual is right up there. Every time I put myself back out there and relapse, a big chunk is taken back out, and it takes so much time for me to rebuild that inside of me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jess, do you see a big difference in this recovery versus past?
Yeah, so it's really funny because what this reminds me of is I remember there was, I think it was after the last time that I brought you to detox at Butler.
Yeah.
Obviously that was a really big moment. That was a really hard one for me, and that was, I think, when you were pretty down bad.
Yeah.
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 And I remember bawling my eyes out after, and I don't know if it was my dad I was talking to or somebody, anyways, but I was like crying my eyes out and screaming. I was like, like hyper. There's a couple moments, just, you know, since you want to hear like the thick of it, that I was like, you know, in stages of like unwell, like hyperventilating, emotional. Like I remember there was one time I ran to my backyard and my old roommates were here and they were outside, and I just like fell into the grass and I don't think I could get up. I was crying for so fucking long because I was like, I'm gonna lose them. And but the last time that I brought him there, I just remember screaming, and I was like, he has to go to a monastery. I have to get him into fucking a monastery. He's gotta go fucking be with the monks. He's gotta go be with the monks for like months. Like he can't, there is no quick fix here. Like there's no fix. Like he can't go to detox and get out and go into a sober house. He can't do this. And you know, I'm such a person that's like, I go into go mode for my people, and I'm like, we gotta figure out how to fix this and how to make this better, because like I can't sit back and like watch when shit's going down like this.
Sure.
No, I'm just that type of person.
Yeah.
A little maybe control-ish. I don't fucking know, but I remember just being like, this is the only way. Like, why won't anybody listen to me? And like, how do I do this? And I was like, not gonna lie, I was like, okay, looking up all these places, and I found like these 2 places, and I'm like, okay, this Bali, they only take 30 people. I can get him in there. They're on discount, blah, blah, blah. It's $11,000. I got fucking 5 on it. You got this. Like, let's all fucking pull in. Like, he's gotta go to Bali. He's gotta go away. He can't be here. And I knew how, like, at this point in his journey, it was so hard because he had 2 kids. And that was all its own heartbreaking part of his story. And I was angry too. I was so angry, and I was, of course, heartbroken. But I had gotten to the point that I had created some boundaries. I don't, you know, I'm not going to say they were good, bad. I stuck to them. I didn't, but I was, you know, I was in a certain, I do a lot of different modalities of trying to self-healing, growth. But I was like talking to one therapist specifically about my brother and that situation at that time, because I was really struggling. It was in my physical presence there was a chunk of maybe 2 or 3 years that was really, really hard for me. And it was, I think I had just kind of moved in here, and I had a lot of guilt about that too, because he had lived here prior, and it was just a weird dynamic. And you know, my nephew had gone to Florida, and that was really hard on me. Never mind him and all of his stuff. Like, that was another part of the dynamic. He had a daughter now. That was another thing, like watching relationships fail. There's a lot of sadness there. I forgot where I was going with it.
Detoxes, like you ended up getting him into detoxes, Bali, and then you were gonna ship it in Bali.
I was gonna ship his ass to Bali. Well, I had created boundaries at this point. And that was probably a few weeks span that was completely taxing on me before I brought him there, because it was the, you know, when you know that he's in active use, I would have nightmares. I had to mentally prepare myself for the worst for a long time, and that part was, of course, devastating. I had to come to terms with the fact that I might get a phone call. That was my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And that part of it was, you know, it's nothing to take lightly. I had seen him, the last time I had seen him, he did not look healthy and well. And I would have nightmares that, like, you know,
to be honest, that like he would get in the car with my niece or nephew. They would be injured. Or that I get a call that he died from a drug overdose or killed himself. And that was very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
I had a really good support system of people around me. I have great friends and family that was there supporting me through it. But family's tough to deal with when it comes to this stuff because we all have our feelings about it.
All have your own boundaries.
We all have our own boundaries. We all have our own, you know, how are you dealing with it this time? How should I deal with it this time? Everything affects everything.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you know, you're in problem solving mode. That's kind of what you do when you care about somebody that's using. You're in protective mode. You're in problem solving mode. You're in hero mode. You're in I don't give a fuck mode. This is your choice. There's so many emotions that go along with it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to navigate yourself back to calm waters because you're in a heightened state all the time.
Yeah.
And that part of it was really difficult, but I did create boundaries as far as like you're not allowed in my home there was certain points that unless I'm there, you're not allowed in my home. I won't help you with rides anymore because there was a lot of shit that was draining me, especially with him having a child.
Yeah.
I was a big part of my nephew's life when he was growing up. And he lived here and they took me in, when I moved back from Florida and, that was enabling for him in many ways, I feel like, because I was that extra person there, helping him with Steven or giving rides or doing stuff like that. And I had to create those boundaries because I knew it was enabling the behavior, which was so hard for me because saying no is not something I'm very good at. Yeah. And especially for my brother, and especially because I'm like, if I don't do this, then I'm not helping my nephew or I'm not helping, it's like there's a lot of guilt when it comes from cutting someone that's using off. Yeah. It's like, if I don't give my brother money for food, he's not going to eat.
Yeah, and I used that a lot. I
know. I'd be like, I send you a fucking pizza. Yeah. And send him a pizza and whatever, or something like that. But
I used the victim card on my family all the time.
Yeah.
When it was about my son.
Yeah,
like,
that was hard.
Poor me. I'm in this position.
Oh, yeah.
I never really, caring about... the selfishness was just... that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
Was just my own personal
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not that person.
No.
And so, the shame every time of asking... Even though I didn't care, it was still implemented in me how much guilt and shame was around asking every time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jess, when Stephen went down to Florida, you mentioned that you were pretty active in his life, in his childhood life. How was that for you when he went down? What was like?
It was heartbreaking. That was really hard for me, and that's something that I feel like maybe I haven't felt validated to talk about much, or I have dealt with on my own accord. But I think when he lost Steven, I think that was probably one of the hardest times in his life.
Yeah.
I think he held a lot of pride probably for raising his son. When his mother needed her own growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
which she's doing amazing now.
That's fantastic.
Both amazing people, and I've loved them both.
Yeah.
And you're very lucky to have the baby mama you do, because they're fucking awesome.
I do. They are.
I love them.
And everybody has their own shit, right?
Yeah.
I have mine too.
Yeah,
but it's been very hard for me as almost the middleman in a lot of Steve's life.
Sure.
And I've had to try and expend a lot of fucking energy
Yeah.
maintaining a relationship with the mothers of my
brother's children because I love them and would do anything for them, and also hold hard boundaries to not be involved, and then having moments of having to get involved. So it's just exhausting.
It is
actually.
straining.
It's been fucking exhausting. And I think that's more of the reason why I had to create the boundaries, is because I had been so exhausted at points from like, this is not even my shit, dude. I have my own shit and nobody seems to give a fuck about that. And there was a lot of bit of resentment there as well. Like, we're always fucking having to deal with Steve getting better. And it's like, I'm not feeling too fucking hot myself.
Right.
But Steven leaving was very difficult because I knew the pain that it caused him. But the pain that it caused me, I was very angry that wasn't, it was like that didn't even exist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I would have taken that child in as my own. And when, you know, of course, everything works out just the way it's supposed to. I believe that more than anything. But I was worried and angry that, like, you know, she was going to Florida too, because I knew what that meant. But I am somebody that can see things out of my own need and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes to a fault, but for the most part for the good. And like, this is what's meant to happen. That's your son, and you need to go to Florida to be with your family and to be supported right now. And Steve can't be here and support. And that's not my child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love him, and I will do my best to stay in his life, which is extremely difficult when he lives in Florida.
Sure.
And then dealing with my shame and guilt around how much effort I'm able to put in, or how much time or money I'm able to find to be able to get out there and show that, like, show my love or prove my love, because it's not here all the time, you know? So you have to do things outside of your normal, being your normal self, to show up for him.
Yeah.
And so all those things are definitely hard, but there was just a lot of pain around it all.
Sure.
Steve being where he was at the time, and the sadness of my nephew having to lose him in some capacity as well. And, you know, just the reassurance. I remember him, Steve, breaking down in this kitchen, actually. And he was just like, that's my son, you know?
Yeah.
That's my son. I'm like, losing him. And he's like, I can't do it. I won't be able to do it. And I remember just being like, you can do this, you know? You just got to get better, and you can have him in your life to any capacity that you want. Like, it will get better. But when you feel like, you know, I'm losing custody, somebody's taking my child, like, I can't even imagine what that feels like. So that, really hard, really fucking hard.
Yeah. And when,
really
and when Steven went to prison, that was...
That's right. That happened.
I know, and
Exhausting.
that's something.
Tired.
I've had a couple of family members that have gone, and I've never been as close to them to feel that. And I can't imagine just you being so close to him and then him going away. Because how long did you go for?
I think the first time was a couple weeks, and then the second time was the same.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like a super long
I didn't
time.
do any bids, no.
I just went that.
For over a couple months. Second time?
The second time was,
a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been scary, though. I mean,
and I remember because he was newly sober.
Yeah. Right.
Well, he had to be newly sober.
Yeah.
He was in fucking detox, and then he went to prison.
Both times I was sober going into prison.
Yeah, I remember, because the second time they finally
That's
got
scary.
him on some medication that really made him feel a little, you know, like things were a little more bearable.
Sure.
Right.
And I remember him not having that. And being so worried because, you know, he was at a you're at a pretty low point, you know? So it's like, again, it's just, I think I feel like the pain and the worry. Like, I don't really look at it from an outside perspective. I'm a big feeling person.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was sad, you know? And I just, like, had to deal with it. And I remember being like, you know, there's a lot of growth on my part dealing with such emotional stuff. Even though I'm still such an emotional person, I'm able to grow logically in ways that are not innate to me. So like being able to understand that this is the scenario I'm dealing with right now. This is the strength I need to get through. And this is how I can now deal with this scenario. And yeah, it's a lot of my own self-work that's made me be able to deal with things like that. You know, I'm like, okay, what are my boundaries here?
Yeah.
You know, like, will I go visit him? Will I be able to send him any money?
Yeah.
Will I be able to, you know, all these things, these like checkpoints kind of hit through my head.
Yeah.
And I make decisions from there, and I make them to the best of my ability. And I try to be open and honest and vulnerable with myself to do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Instead of making those decisions from a resentful, angry, sad, caring place.
Sure,
You know,
absolutely.
trying to be a little more logical. And I remember like him going into jail. Of course, like when I went to go visit him in jail, like it sucks. Like you don't want to do that shit, you know? It's sad. It feels just like, oh my God, you know? It's just like it's really hard to describe the feeling actually,
yeah, no,
but
absolutely. So today, how do you feel that you and Steve's relationship has progressed now that he is sober?
I think it's progressing quite well. Yeah, I feel like I'm gaining my brother back. A lot of the hardship through Steve's journey has been the loss of my brother, even though he was here already. And
So grieving.
yeah, there's been a lot of grieving and a lot of working through a lot of stuff. But it's changed me for the better as well. So it's meant to be our story.
Oh, I love
And
that.
you know, you wouldn't be able to be the person that you are today, and you will be in your future if you did not go through
Correct.
what you've gone through.
Yeah, the pain.
Yeah, you know, everything is, I do believe, divinely laid out so we can become the best version of ourselves if we allow it.
Yeah.
And I think Steve is allowing that right now, and I'm so grateful to see where he's at. And of course, I have many fears constantly
Sure.
if the other shoe will drop.
Yes.
But I think the growth that, you know, he's experiencing right now is just, it's beautiful to see. And I know it's not so hard for him to navigate how to, you know, how he needs to tread on our relationship. But we've had our talks, and we will always continue to talk more. And as long as he is doing right by himself, then he's going to be doing right by me. And well, I mean, I guess that's not true, but
Well.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I think we're building trust back.
Yeah.
And we are building like our relationship back, you know? The thing I miss the most is just like having him there, and like having the support from him, or like having him be present, or, you know, I mean, drugs and alcohol take you away from the reality and the life that's right in front of you.
Yep.
Yeah, and me included. So
Yeah.
I think that I'm grateful that he is alive and well and becoming healthier every day, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. And yeah, that's my dog.
I love it.
I love you.
I love you.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to a future. You know, I'm looking forward to having kids myself someday, and like having him be an uncle and having our kids play. And I'm looking forward to doing fun shit. And like, you know, there's so much stress behind life and all it encompasses,
Sure.
and our
Yeah.
daily shit. And I'm looking forward to like having more good times too, you know, with finding the space and time to like enjoy the summer, and like going to the beach and going on mini family vacations, you know, like I can't wait to go on a vacation with my brother again and his kids, or,
yeah.
you know, things like that we haven't done in
Yeah.
10 years, you
Yeah.
know, just having fun together. And I think, you know, with both of us just being in a good space and choosing a good life,
Yeah.
like those are the things that matter in the end.
I love
So
it. You two are working like two different programs, but kind of the same path.
yeah,
is cool.
pretty much. Yeah.
It's on the same progressive growth plan.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Just two different paths, two different backgrounds.
I love
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Well, Jess, we want to say thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate hearing the other side. I got very emotional hearing it. Just because you don't know, you don't know what other people feel like. And like you think you do, but like when you are an addict or an alcoholic, you get lost and you get blind and you don't see it. And you see it when you only want to see it,
Sure.
So thank you for being vulnerable and honest. I just love you.
You're welcome. Love you guys. I'm so happy.
Is that it? Are you
That's
going to
it.
say thank you?
No.
Okay.
No, she doesn't deserve it. Thank you.
We will see you guys next time. Thank you for
Cub
coming.
Scout.
Very nice. Great job.
Thanks. I don't even know what we said.